Okay, I'm going to try to start talking about our project, Jake. Jake and I worked on this together. Jake, are you here? Can you hear me? Okay. I wanted to turn around and face the group, but I don't know how to do that. So
Yeah, so they'll have a
I'm just
background
going to
on it.
talk.
So that's the first part, and then they got to get into groups and research, like Denise said, and forecast models and figure out stuff with about what we learned in class and apply it to real life. Which leads us to the next slide. So this ends with a field trip where after they do their presentations with PowerPoint and whatnot, they go to the library. We have some days set aside for the library. They really get to research and have plenty of time to do this because my students need a lot of time just to get organized. So it really gives them the review that they need. And after we get to actually go outside and practice these skills after they present, and like a day, or well, it'd be like a 2-day, maybe weekend kind of thing, or one day. And the first day would be orientation and survival skills and how we can use these earth science stuff to assist us in climate and location study. Learn about making fires, how to build a shelter. Talk about absorption and installation and insolation. There's a lot of stuff we can touch on, and then there's a big mapping, and my whole theme was survival, or our theme was survival. Then there's a terrain study, a discussion about that stuff. And the second day, we'd actually go on and do it with like a hike, where we use a topographic map to map our route up the best way. We talk about data gathering. We can do a temperature study from the bottom of the mountain to the top of the mountain. Have other stuff for kids who don't hike back at the camp, compass scavenger hunt, that kind of stuff.
Right, we want to have them looking at the cloud types and on the day that we're out there and seeing what that tells us about the weather that day, so we could dress properly, and looking at the weather forecast and weather maps and reading weather maps. There's all kinds of things we can integrate, and like we said, with the research on the internet too. And then there is a written report required at the end of this, and a presentation with a PowerPoint of how they would survive in the region, and then they're going to be peer reviewed by the classmates, kind of like we're doing here, so that everyone else will learn about the other regions and how to survive in them.
The field trip question. Well, my school, I didn't really ask. I said, what about a weekend trip? And they said it's been done before. I mean, my school has sent kids over the summer to Europe. So they're pretty, as long as it's well planned, I don't, maybe a weekend, if not a weekend, then a day. We could still do a day thing. It would, of course, be truncated. And there'd probably just be the hike with the topographic map or something along those lines. But we could still do the whole project.
Yeah, I really like the idea of getting them outdoors. Jake's already got a class. I think that would really engage the students if you could actually show them how a map is made. Like, I've always wanted to use my surveying skills to show them how elevations are recorded to make a topographic map. So that would be something I'd want to integrate too, and use that technology. Jake, do you want to wrap it up?
You did a good job, I think.
I guess, yeah, the project is going to culminate with this PowerPoint presentation that the students give based on their research, and a written report that they hand in on the climate. And that's the idea.
Well, folks,
Any questions?
No. That's wonderful, and I think it's helpful how you're bringing in your own personal backgrounds. Denise is a surveyor. Jake has been to some incredible places you'll see on his website. I almost think they're fake, but I think he wants to be the next, what is that, Man vs. Wild? So I think you're bringing the kids into another rich, multifaceted environment. All of you have done more than have them just sitting there and filling in worksheets. So I think there'll be quite a bit of interesting learning, but that will be an interesting field trip, so you better give them a lot of warnings about how to behave if they're climbing. But I think another rich project, and I hope we hear at least about some of it, Jake, if you can run this. That would be great.
I'm going to try, but they won't be able to go on the field trip unless if they're passing my class 1 and 2, if I can trust them with the behavior. Because my students are, I got cursed out today, for example. They're quite animated.
I think you're not the first teacher who's had that happen. Um, yeah,
I
no,
gotta
there.
say, Jake, this would be a lot like I've been an assistant Cub Scout leader with the boys, and I've done a lot of these kind of things in Cub Scouts. We've done, hiking and mapping, and it's a lot of fun. And it doesn't usually happen during the school day. It's usually stuff that has to happen on a weekend. So that would be great because a lot of kids don't get to do this kind of stuff.
And I think Denise has
I hope you do.
volunteered to go
Yeah.
down and help, so take her up on it.
I definitely would. I think that would be great. I'm thinking, Jake, you could do it in Central Park. I don't think you have to go too far.
Oh, I had them running around Central Park trying to find rocks. I gave them a final project where they had to do sedimentary rocks, and they're like, "We don't have rocks in Brooklyn. We don't have rocks in the Bronx." I'm like, "Why don't you just look down?" And they all come in with their rocks.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good.
So we'll hear more about that. But if they start to just look at the world around them, that's a big plus.